What's up, mortgage coach community? Dave Savage here, and I am interviewing Austin Niemiec. What's up, brother?
How are you, Dave? Good to see you, man.
I'm doing good. You know, it's not every day I get an executive from Rocket on the Mortgage Coach channel. I'm looking forward to hearing what your thoughts are on big opportunities in the market.
It's not every day I get to talk to the mortgage coach, Dave Savage, so it's a good day.
Yeah, well, thank you for making time. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know you, I know there's a lot of leaders in the industry that they know who you are, but there's new loan officers and there's loan officers that don't. Just give us a minute backstory on who you are and what your role is at Rocket.
Yeah, so I'm the EVP here at Rocket Pro TPO. So I lead our wholesale channel, kind of our B2B channel. I've been with Rocket companies for almost 14 seasons, Dave. I started as a loan officer and then I ran a team of loan officers and came over to this side of the business about 6 years ago to really build what we believe is the best and the biggest platform for mortgage brokers in America. So it's exciting to get to work with our internal team and spend a lot of time with brokers all across America. So it's been an incredible 6 years working on the wholesale side.
Good. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what you think some of the biggest opportunities are in the market. But let's start with just data points. Yeah. Obviously, one data point is interest rates have gone up. But I want you to share some data points that are negative, and obviously you can mention rates, but also some data points that are creating value for loan officers. Because my hope is in this article that I'm writing, it's gonna be the brutal reality. It's also gonna be some bright lights, and then it's gonna be like, here's some big ideas. This is where the gold is for everyone. So what are the top 3 to 5 data points that create the market we're in and the opportunities that we have?
Yeah, look, I think we'll start with you want to call them negative, you can also call them opportunities, but rates, depending on the moment you're listening to this, are on the rise. The Fed's going to have a big announcement here in an hour. And look, it's no secret. I think we'll see mortgage rates rise throughout the summer and probably even throughout the fall. And we're already at a 15-year historic high. So that's a data point that we look at that obviously impacts a loan originator. Another data point you look at is inventory. I mean, it's low, extremely low. So it's a unique time in the industry where you got rates moving north, you got inventory that's light, and then the big, buzzword right now is affordability. Between rates going up and value still being high, and you got some of these institutional buyers getting in and buying homes at scale. For a first-time home buyer or someone that's on the lower end of affordability, it's tough right now, and so that impacts the loan originator. Some other data points that we look at, Dave, on a positive note are the amount of equity. It's at a historic high. I mean, people all across America are, making the decision, some to sit on the sidelines and not purchase or upgrade their home. And the other data point is debt. There's more equity than Americans have ever seen, and there's more debt than Americans have ever seen. And so that does give a unique opportunity for, obviously cash out, second lien mortgages, things of that nature that, a lot of LOs are taking advantage of. So, another data point is, we got this generation called millennials, and it's going to be the biggest generation of first-time home buyers that, obviously they're hitting the market right now and will continue to hit the market as inventory increases, as new homes get built, as affordability gains more traction. There's going to be a lot of folks just itching to buy a house that if you're patient, you're persistent, you're in this for the long game as an LO, it's going to be bountiful. It's just, you got to have persistent patience. So basic stuff, Dave. Those are kind of the data points we're looking at. You can look at CPI, you can look at inflation, you can look at what MBSs are doing, but rates are moving north. Inventory is light. There's a lot of equity. There's a lot of debt. And we got a big wave of first-time home buyers that are going to be hitting here soon when the time's right.
So another question, top trends. And I think the millennial wave is a trend. But what are some other trends? And let's really focus on that create opportunities for loan officers in this market. What are top 3 trends that come to mind that if you were a loan officer, hey, this is the data, some of it's good, some of it's bad, here are the trends. And now after you give these trends, we'll get into specific opportunities.
Again, not to sound repetitive, but a trend is debt and high interest debt. And now you're seeing inflation, obviously. The government's trying to do a lot to calm it down, but the recent CPI we showed almost 9% year over year, and so how do you leverage the fact that Americans, their spending power is so much less, their debt is on the rise, and so finding creative ways to build relationships with those types of clients or referral sources is a trend. A trend line of, look, there are so many LOs. There's never been more LOs in the market than there is today. I mean, there's so many loan officers that got into the industry over the last 2 or 3 years. And I think that you'll see a record level of folks get out of the industry, unfortunately, that are just, maybe we're just in it as a side hustle or, a transitionary type of role or career. And there's more real estate agents than there's ever been. And so, if you're in it again for the long run and you're in it to build relationships, plant those pre-approval seeds, if you're a broker owner, finding the right LOs that are in it for the long run, there will be opportunity with folks getting out of the industry. And even real estate agents getting out of the industry as well. So there'll be a shift in the market as far as the number of professionals, I think, over the next 6 months, and how you're going to take advantage of that as you build your business.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the trend? Because, you've been doing this for a while. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years. Like when I got in the business, I took an app with a yellow sheet of paper, and you guys launched the Rocket, which did start the beginning of everyone, here's a link. And now consumers are taking their own apps, which we used to have to take the app. So that's the shit, Mortgage Coach, in terms of showing families, their debt and their equity and strategies on how they can optimize debt and equity for affordability, for lifestyle. And sometimes they can become debt-free a lot faster if they're just being strategic with that. What are your thoughts on the technology trends, and are there any other trends that you want to call out?
It's a great question. Look, I think when we launched, to your point, we launched the Rocket right back on a Super Bowl commercial, I don't know, 7 years ago. You get a lot of people in the industry that were offended by it, maybe, of saying, look, an app can never take over what a human being or a mortgage pro does. And I agree with that. But I also lean in heavily to the philosophy of a term we use all the time right now is let computers do what computers do best, so that humans can do what humans do best. And as a loan officer, a mortgage pro, even a real estate agent, you got to lean into those things that free up time. You got to lean into the technology that computers can do much better than we as human beings can do. And those are things like a great point of sale, like the technology you built with Mortgage Coach. And I think it's such a beautiful time, Dave, to be in the industry, because you have folks like us building technology that LOs, brokers, small business owners can lean on and not have to try to be a technologist and understand data. And so that these LOs can do what they've been doing great for years, which is finding clients, building a brand, building great referral relationships with real estate agents and financial advisors, and just knocking out so many remedial tasks that maybe we had to do 5, 10, 20 years ago. And so I think you're seeing a lot of LOs embrace that. You're also seeing some LOs not embrace it and feel as if a technology or a POS is out to get them. It's not the case. It's out to free them up to do the things that are scalable and revenue generating. So, and I think you're a great example of that with a lot of the stuff that you built.
Yeah.
You can do it the old fashioned way with one of these. And I still have about 4 of these in my office.
Yeah.
Or you can use something a little bit more high tech these days to free up your fingers.
No doubt. And I love that quote. I have my own version of it, but you said it well. Let computers do what they do best so that humans can do what they do best. And that is being local, asking great questions, and connecting, helping families create a story around homeownership. So let's get into just top 3 opportunities. If you were a local referral-based mortgage professional, what are some of the biggest opportunities that you would be doing personally? And if you were leading a retail team, I know you lead a wholesale team, but if you were leading a retail team, what would you be like, guys, we got to do this?
Yeah, you got to get inside of this thing right here. This is a cellular phone, Dave. And I think that, you look at all sorts of trends and stats about short form video, and my goodness, is it grabbing the attention of every generation right now, anyone in America? Short form video is the best way to gain people's attention in any industry. We just went out to Google with a bunch of mortgage brokers. We got to sit down with one of their executive teams, and we looked at the data around how incredibly valuable a short form video strategy is for small local business owners. Sometimes small brokers lean away from that. Like, what am I going to do? I'm going to compete on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. And absolutely, yes, you can. Even if you're just trying to target your local area, you got to get into the cell phone. I mean, people, their faces, their heads are buried in these things, and you got to lean into it and leverage it. So some, Google was giving us tips and feedback of like, look, you don't need to create a YouTube channel that tries to get the attention of, 20 million Americans, but create an incredibly niche YouTube channel with short form video content that might speak to something very, very, very specific, maybe down payment assistant programs in Topeka, Kansas, and lean into it, right? There's all sorts of things you can do to scale that out. So I think that, again, if I was an LO, whether it was local broker, all the way up to your point, retail, get into the cell phone and do it via the way of a short form video. It's so impactful. And you can do it to target clients, but you can also do it to target agents, financial advisors, whatever. There's a lot to it. We could talk about it for hours, but short form video is a big deal right now.
And how do they define short form? Is it under 3 minutes? Is it under 5 minutes? Is it under 90 seconds? What is short form video?
I think it depends on the platform. I mean, you look at things like Instagram and Facebook, you typically want to keep that under, 45 seconds, but then get people wanting more. You create some great short form video that captures someone's attention and you provide a nugget of value, link it off to your YouTube channel where then you can go deeper and you can have 5, 15, 20-minute conversations there. So it's really depends on the platform, Dave.
What about, I've been advocating a lot, text video, just, hey, you took an app or you met with someone, you had an introductory conversation, give them a 30-second to 45-second video, just pull up your phone. I mean, I'm a fan of BombBomb and, competitors of BombBomb. We've built video in the mortgage coach, so I couldn't agree with you more. Like, we know when a loan officer delivers the numbers with a total cost analysis with a less than 90-second video, they get rate shop less and they have better conversion. We know that. But okay, cool. So anything to add on that? Because I want to get at least one more idea.
Yeah, I mean, we're the same thing. I mean, we have email that our sales folks use, and then we have BombBomb that our sales folks use, and we look at the open rate, we look at the click-through rates, and I mean, BombBomb and video content, it destroys just good old-fashioned a text email. So I'm just violently agreeing with you.
Cool. Number 2, what's another thing you would do or you think people should be doing?
Look, again, this is going to sound old school and basic, but getting back to good old-fashioned salesmanship. I think we've been in an industry for the last 4 or 5 years. It was a math problem. You were doing an equation. I mean, everyone you talk to from a refi standpoint, it was a rate and term, and you're taking the rate from a 5 to a 3 or a 4.5 to a 2.99. And it was, how efficient could I be with my conversations? How many people can I talk to? And how many math problems can I do? And how can I keep my back end very efficient so I can go find more people to talk to? Nowadays, it's a conversion game and it's creative. And it's went from being a equation to a story problem. And so you got to slow down now as a loan officer. You got to ask a lot of questions. You got to pull credit now. Don't start with the rate, start with the debt, start with the children, start with the future, start with the equity, start by reviewing the credit report. Don't even ask about the rate. And then these mortgage solutions are a lot more creative nowadays. They take more solutions, and I still see a lot of LOs out there still trying to play the game of a rate and term refi or a get in and just knock on the door of a real estate agent. Creativity, sales, and conversion now has heightened to a level that is incredibly important again. It hasn't been as much.
Well, what I've been telling loan officers from stages, and every time I do a sales rally, I talk about that, if you tell, like, for the past 2 years, when you told the consumer what the rates were, we're happy. Like, oh, rates. Maybe they had heard a lower rate somewhere else, but it was just like a level of curiosity. But now when you tell a consumer what a rate is, they're surprised, they're upset, there's anxiety. Like, no one's going, oh, that's cool. So what are they going to do? They're going to shop. And so, it requires a new level of empathy, of questions, of problem solving. and coming up with creative strategies. And again, I'm Mr. Mortgage Coach. So we were born for a market like this. When you need to actually deliver advice over price, that is what time it is. So, the only thing I would add to that is I agree with sales skills, although I think in the mortgage industry, advice is the most powerful sales skill. Like if you can be a good advisor, an efficient advisor, like there's an efficient way to advise a family, giving them a link versus a fee worksheet and a questioning sequence. But you agree with that? Advice is the best sales strategy in the mortgage space?
Look, when I think of the people in my life that have impacted me the most, that I have full buy-in in them as a human being, it's not somebody that did something for me or gave me something. It's somebody that taught me a skill or gave me knowledge so that I could be more successful as a human being. And I agree with you. That same goes as a mortgage professional to a consumer, especially right now. You don't want to be the guy with the lowest rate and the cheapest cost. You're going to get shopped, to your point, Dave, and they'll always find someone that'll undercut you a bit. You want to be the person that opens consumers' eyes and how a mortgage can transform their life and teach them how a mortgage can transform their life. And that's why, back to what I was saying earlier, you got to understand the full picture these days. The debts on their credit report, how much money they have in the bank, what's their cash flow situation, how many kids do they have, what are their plans 2, 8, 10 years from now? And you have to be that coach. You have to be an advisor, a trusted advisor. And I know that that's not easy right now, especially for a lot of loan officers that have just gotten into the business 2, 3, 4 years ago. But I had this quote that just keeps ringing in my head, Dave. We actually it was one of the original Jamaican bobsledders came and spoke to our leadership team. So I was, born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s. Cool Runnings was the thing, man. And so it was like, it was a star moment. But he had a quote, I don't think it was him, but he said it, and it was, in times of change, and we're in a time of change right now, in times of change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned, people who think they've already figured it out, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to handle a world that no longer exists. So in times of change, the learners inherit the earth, and those who think they've learned it all, they're equipped to handle a world that is behind us. It doesn't even exist anymore. And it's the same thing with the mortgage industry right now, is you got to learn new skills. You got to approach the business differently. And by the way, if you're a pro, that should excite the hell out of you. It's new, it's fresh, but definitely don't be the person who thinks, man, I crushed it over the last 3 years. Look at my W-2, look at the clients. It's a different world. It's fun. Embrace it, innovate, learn, because that world doesn't exist right now. And you're seeing some people that are just taking off right now because they're trying new things and they're learning new skills. But you got to embrace that right now. You really do. It's not a time to say, I'm going to sit back and relax and wait for rates to go back down and do what I did a year ago. No, adapt, change, learn.
So one last thing, let's wrap it. By the way, I'm going to be adding that to my presentation deck. So thank you for that. I've been doing a quote for a couple of years now, where the illiterate of the 21st century are not those who can't read and write, but those who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn. So I'm going to freshen it up with that. So thank you for that little quote. That's so perfect. But another last thing I'm recommending I'm recommending a lot of things in this report I'm going to put out by the end of June. I'm partnering with Kristen Messerly, and it will be this very comprehensive state of the industry halftime report. But I know one of the recommendations is, we've obsessed over how many loans we close, over what our production is, and we need to put an equal amount of obsession around our conversion, our profitability, in terms of just, like if I look at 100 loan officers, there's going to be a top 10% conversion and a top 10% price exceptions. And I'm thinking, like, it's a time in the industry where we start celebrating who are the top 10 conversion loan officers in the company, who are the top 10 with the least amount of price exceptions. And then, well, what are you doing? You're one of the, and the difference between the top 10 with price exceptions, there's still loan officers that are, cost their company less than 10 basis points. And there's a lot of loan officers that have over 30 basis points in that. So what are your thoughts on putting more emphasis and focus on those metrics?
I love it. Like I said, it's a conversion game now. And to your point, conversion, profitability, it all ladders back to what we just talked about, which is skill and trying new things. It's funny, I was in New York again at Google's headquarters with a bunch of top brokers, and one of them was showing me a tool, I think from one of your platforms, I believe, where it showed all the folks in his CRM that actually ended up closing a loan with someone else. And
Oh, that's Sales Boomerang Lost Loan Report.
Yep. And it showed also the company that they closed with. And this gentleman was like, instead of getting pissed off and upset, these are valuable nuggets. And I'm taking the time to talk to the client, literally call the client and say, hey, remember me? I know you didn't choose me. I know you chose X. And I'm calling you just to understand the why behind it. What could I have done better? What value did they provide that I didn't? And this guy was bucketing all the reasons as to what he was finding, and then redoing how he approached his sale, of course, his value proposition. And most of it wasn't around price, by the way, which is cool. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, celebrating conversion, celebrating and understanding your profitability in this market, and we'll be in this market for a bit, is so much more important than it was when it was just an efficiency game the last couple of years,
Yeah, well, I'm going to put a link down below, guys. Part of the sales process at Sales Boomerang is we'll run a lost loan report for you. And lenders are blown away. Like when they see how many loans they lost last month, last year. So I'll put a link, guys, if you want to get a demo of Sales Boomerang or Mortgage Coach down below. And I really appreciate you making time to bring your perspective to the Mortgage Coach community. And I know you guys compete hard out there in the marketplace, but I appreciate you being so transparent in what you think is the right way to win in this market.
And Dave, I'll tell you, the last thing I'll leave you with is, we've been doing mortgages for almost 40 years, and we started as a mortgage broker, and we've grown to be the largest mortgage company on planet Earth. And when you study our growth, it looks like this, but of course you zoom in and there's a lot of but in general, we're continuing to grow and take, increase market share all around. When you see our biggest pops in market share as a company, rocket over 40 years, it's always coming off the back of a big dip because rates skyrocketed. And the reason why is, we've had a great leader, Dan Gilbert. He preaches, that's the time when you truly invest. People always say, I have so many loans going on right now. I don't have time to innovate or build new systems or think about doing business differently. Well, guess what? Most LOs have more time on their hands right now. What are you doing with that time? We've always taken that time and innovated, really, really, really dug in and tried new things. And again, our biggest moments as a company, and the reason we're still, we're here 40 years later, went from a broker to the largest ever, is because we took advantage of these times right now, like truly, not just say we were really going in and changing the way we do business time and time and time again. And so this is an opportunity. You can look at it two ways. You can get negative and say, stare at the 10-year treasury all day and look at rates and say, I'm going to relax. Or you got the time. It's the most valuable thing you have. Go all in and redefine how you do business. You're going to come out of the other end of this thing so much better. So be positive, be optimistic. The numbers and the money follow. They don't lead. Invest in the things that are going to move those numbers and money here over the next 5-10 years.
Great leadership, brother. Appreciate you making time. I look forward to seeing you. Everyone watching this, if you got value, give it a like, share it with your mortgage friends, share it with your mortgage leaders. And this is a wrap. Make sure you subscribe to the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. Take care.